In the landscape of international relations, where alliances are often fragile and political maneuvers can shift overnight, the world watched with bated breath as Mexico took a bold step that would send shockwaves through the United States and beyond. The political climate in the U.S. had been tumultuous, with the presidency of Donald Trump marked by controversy, polarization, and a series of unprecedented decisions that had left both allies and adversaries scrambling to adapt. As the 2024 election loomed on the horizon, the stakes had never been higher. The news broke on a crisp autumn morning, the kind where the air carries a sense of change. Mexico, under the leadership of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, announced a surprising initiative that would redefine its relationship with the United States. In a press conference that captured global attention, López Obrador unveiled a comprehensive plan aimed at addressing immigration, trade, and environmental concerns, issues that had long strained U.S.-Mexico relations. But what made this announcement remarkable was not just the content of the plan, but the audacity with which it was presented. López Obrador's initiative included a proposal for a new economic partnership that would prioritize sustainable development and mutual benefit. It emphasized the importance of collaboration over confrontation, positioning Mexico as a leader in regional diplomacy. This was not merely a response to the historical tensions exacerbated by Trump's policies. It was a proactive stance that sought to elevate Mexico's role on the global stage. The plan called for joint ventures in renewable energy, infrastructure development, and shared responsibility in managing migration. A bold move that invited the U.S. to reconsider its approach. As news of the announcement spread, reactions poured in from every corner of the globe. In Washington, the atmosphere was charged. Trump, who had built much of his political identity on a platform of strict immigration control and America First rhetoric, found himself facing an unexpected challenge. The proposal not only undermined the narrative he had crafted, but also forced him to confront the reality that Mexico was no longer willing to be seen as a subordinate neighbor. The boldness of López Obrador's plan caught the administration off guard, leaving Trump scrambling to respond in a manner that would not appear weak. Meanwhile, in Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau watched with keen interest. Canada had often found itself in the shadow of U.S.-Mexico relations, and the dynamics between the two countries were critical for North America as a whole. Trudeau recognized that Mexico's initiative could open new avenues for collaboration, not just between Mexico and the U.S., but also involving Canada as a vital partner in the region. The potential for a trilateral alliance that focused on sustainability and shared prosperity was appealing. Trudeau began to formulate his own response, keen to position Canada as a bridge between its two neighbors. Across the Pacific, China, too, was taken aback. The Chinese government had been closely monitoring the shifting tides of U.S.-Mexico relations, particularly as it sought to expand its influence in Latin America. The announcement from Mexico represented a strategic pivot that could alter trade patterns and diplomatic alignments in the region. China, which had been positioning itself as a counterweight to U.S. hegemony, saw an opportunity to engage with Mexico on economic initiatives that could benefit both nations. This unexpected development prompted Chinese officials to reevaluate their strategy, considering how they might leverage this new partnership to their advantage. As the days unfolded, the implications of Mexico's bold move began to ripple through the political landscape. In the United States, the response from various factions was revealing. Some within the Republican Party rallied around Trump, insisting that Mexico's initiative was a bluff that would ultimately fail. They argued that the U.S. economy was too strong, its influence too vast, for Mexico to challenge. However, others recognized the gravity of the situation. Political analysts and commentators began to highlight the potential consequences of ignoring Mexico's overture. The narrative shifted from one of dismissal to one of concern, with discussions about the need for a more nuanced approach to foreign policy gaining traction. In the Democratic camp, there was a palpable sense of opportunity. Many saw López Obrador's plan as a chance to advocate for a more humane immigration policy and to push for environmental reforms that aligned with their platform. Figures like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders began to speak out, emphasizing the importance of cooperation over division. They argued that the U.S. should embrace Mexico's initiative, not only to foster goodwill, but to address pressing issues such as climate change and economic inequality. As the political discourse intensified, grassroots movements in both countries began to mobilize. Activists and citizens took to social media, sharing their thoughts on the proposed partnership. In Mexico, there was a wave of national pride. Many felt that their country was finally stepping into its own as a player on the world stage. In the U.S., however, the response was mixed. Some Americans expressed hope that this could lead to a more constructive relationship with Mexico, while others felt threatened, fearing that the changes could undermine their livelihoods. Amidst the political turmoil, economic analysts began to dissect the potential impacts of Mexico's proposal. The idea of a sustainable economic partnership resonated with many in the business community, who recognized that climate change and resource scarcity would be defining challenges of the coming decades. Companies that had long depended on traditional manufacturing methods began to explore how they could pivot towards greener practices, seeing collaboration with Mexican firms as an opportunity to innovate. As the months passed, the U.S. government faced mounting pressure to respond. Trump, who had initially dismissed the proposal, found himself in a precarious position. His base was split. Some supporters were wary of any perceived concession to Mexico, while others recognized that a hardline approach might backfire. In a series of public appearances, Trump attempted to downplay the significance of the initiative, but the reality was undeniable. Mexico was no longer content to be seen merely as a neighbor or a source of labor. It was asserting its sovereignty and its vision for the future. In a surprising turn of events, Trump eventually called for a summit with López Obrador, seeking to address the issues head-on. The meeting was framed as a chance to strengthen ties, but it was clear that the power dynamics had shifted. López Obrador arrived with a clear agenda, advocating for the principles laid out in his proposal, emphasizing collaboration and mutual respect. Trump, on the other hand, was confronted with the reality that he could no longer dictate terms unilaterally. The summit was marked by tension, but also by moments of unexpected camaraderie. Both leaders recognized the importance of their countries' intertwined fates, and discussions ranged from economic cooperation to environmental stewardship. For the first time in years, the tone was less about building walls and more about building bridges. The media coverage was intense, capturing every nuance of the dialogue, and analysts speculated on what this newfound willingness to engage could mean for the future. As the dust settled from the summit, the effects of Mexico's bold move began to manifest in tangible ways. Trade agreements were revisited, with an emphasis on sustainability and fair labor practices. Joint initiatives aimed at addressing climate change were launched, signaling a commitment to a shared future. The ripple effects were felt not only in the U.S. and Mexico, but also in Canada and beyond, as nations began to reconsider their own approaches to international cooperation. In the months that followed, the political landscape continued to evolve. The 2024 election cycle intensified, with candidates from both parties grappling with the implications of Mexico's initiative. The narrative shifted yet again, as issues of immigration, trade, and environmental policy took center stage in debates. Candidates who had once aligned themselves with Trump's hardline stance found themselves at odds with a growing segment of the electorate that favored collaboration and diplomacy. In Mexico, López Obrador's approval ratings surged as citizens rallied around the idea of a new era in international relations. The bold move had not only elevated Mexico's status, but it also instilled a sense of national pride. For many, it was a moment of reckoning, a chance to redefine their place in the world and to assert their agency in the face of historical power dynamics. As the world looked on, the narrative of the end of Trump became more than just a political slogan. It evolved into a symbol of shifting power dynamics, a testament to the resilience of nations willing to forge their own paths. Mexico's initiative had not only surprised the U.S., but it also inspired a rethinking of what it meant to engage in the global arena. In a time of uncertainty, it served as a reminder that bold ideas could indeed reshape the future, challenging the status quo and paving the way for new alliances built on mutual respect and shared goals. The implications of this moment were far-reaching, as countries around the world re-evaluated their own strategies in light of Mexico's audacity. The landscape of international relations began to shift. The era of unilateralism, characterized by the likes of Trump, was giving way to a new paradigm, one that emphasized collaboration, sustainability, and the interconnectedness of global challenges. The world was changing, and Mexico had taken the lead in showing that a bold move could indeed surprise even the most powerful of nations, redefining relationships and setting the stage for a new era of diplomacy.